Welcome to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. Today, we have two extraordinary guests that is going to share with us some information about an upcoming event that we are having in the Washington, D.C. area that they would like to invite you to. And I have with me today, here in the studio, Mike Goggin from the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington, and Bhai Gurdarshan Singh, who also serves on the board with the IFC. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sure. Now, the big thing I know that's been going on, I've been receiving emails, is your 35th anniversary concert. Can you share with us what that concert is about?
Sure, it's an annual event that's been just a staple of the interfaith community in Washington, D.C. now for many years, 35 years as the name implies. This is a chance for people to come out and enjoy an evening of wonderful song, dance, and chant, featuring 5 faith traditions. Each year we feature 5 of those traditions. And then also there's a combined choir that sings. So all of those traditions, as different as they might be, from Sikh to Protestant Christian to Jewish to Muslim, all join together in singing some combined choir anthems during the course of the evening. So it's a wonderful spectacle, just a great concert.
Great. And what have concerts in the past have been that takes it up to this level that would make it more exciting, or is there any changes that's taken place at this event?
Well, you know, even before it came to Washington, D.C., the idea of an interfaith concert began a long time ago. Back in 1944, Rabbi Eugene Lippman was serving in Dallas, Texas, and he decided to get together Protestants, Christians, and Jews for an interfaith concert around the time of Thanksgiving. And that turned out to be a wonderful, unifying, community-building event there in Dallas. Where, you know, segregation at the time being 1944, at that time African Americans were sitting in the balcony and European Americans were sitting on the floor, but yet they exchanged tickets and in many ways created kind of a blended audience like that. And so when Eugene Lippman came to Washington as a rabbi, he brought the idea of that concert with him. And the Interfaith Conference has run with that now for 35 years. Under the direction of Reverend Clark Lobenstein, the only executive director that IFC has known,
right.
Who is preparing to retire. And so he is actually the honoree of this year's concert.
That's great. And we had Reverend Lobenstein on the show. He's a wonderful man.
That's
so
right.
We are very excited. And of course sad to see that he's moving on. But
Yes.
it's a very good opportunity to really celebrate and, you know, share with the community what he has done. So for individuals who may not be familiar with the conference or with this event, what are they expecting from the time they enter, or will they have food? I know with in religious traditions, food tends to draw everyone, kind of like a peace kind of like maker type thing with food. And so what will we see there? What will we expect to take place there?
Sure. Well, first of all, the concert is taking place on Tuesday, November 19th at Washington Hebrew Congregation, which is one of the largest synagogues in Washington, D.C., also very convenient to the Washington National Cathedral area, right between Wisconsin and Massachusetts Avenue, so very easy to get to with good public transportation options nearby. And so as people enter, they're going to enjoy what we call a surround of sound. They'll hear the adhan, the Islamic call to prayer, chanted by at least one member of the Muslim community. They'll hear a shofar blast, and they'll hear some other sacred sounds as well from some of our traditions. And that begins a whole evening of a musical experience. They'll experience a Hindu dance, perhaps for the first time. They'll enjoy the sound of tabla and harmonium, courtesy of the Sikh community. They will celebrate a Cameroonian choir from the Presbyterian Christian tradition, and a small Jewish ensemble from Temple Road F. Shalom. So at the end of the night, it all culminates in what we call a taste of heaven, which is a dessert reception that we're able to do when we have the event at Washington Hebrew, which is typically every third year. And that will be a celebration of sort of ethnic food from all 11 member faith traditions of IFC.
Oh, okay, it's exciting. And for you, Basab, since you are first individual from the Sikhism tradition, can you share with us some background information about the faith tradition and maybe highlight some of the major holidays or rituals that are done within your community?
First of all, thank you, Jackie, for inviting me with Goggin. And Sikhism was started by named Guru Nanak, who was born in now that area is in Pakistan. And he started Sikh faith. In that society at that time, it was divided into literally caste system and so on. That's why every Sikh has a last name Singh, and that's for male. The female has last name Kaur, K-A-U-R, means princess. So the people were known by the last names. The last name was designated for the higher or low caste. So when he created his faith, he abolished the caste system, that you should be known as the children of God. We are all created equally. And in our scriptures, which we call as Guru Granth Sahib, it is very interesting to know. Many people, I don't think they know it. When we enter in our place of worship, which we call as Gurdwara, and we bow to our scriptures. But in that scripture, they are not only the writings of the Sikh gurus, but the writings of other faith traditions and people, those who experienced enlightenment through their own traditions. They were also revered, and their writings were put into our scriptures. A symbol of that the life has purpose. The purpose is simple: to be enlightened. In our faith, if there is any sin, the sin is to live as ignorant, die as ignorant. So he started this faith and gave 3 basic principles to live. One was, which we call as Naam Japna, is meditate, connect with the Creator. The Creator in our tradition, God is not some entity, but it's virtuous God. You have love, you're close to God. You have service, you are close to God. You are humble, you are close to God. Those virtues make up God in totality. The creation is also part of God. Creation is not separate from God. Number 1 is to connect with the whole through meditation. Number 2, he gave us that your earning with honest means, honest labor. Number 3, share your blessings with others.
Okay.
So these are the basic fundamentals of our faith.
Okay. Now, with any holidays that are celebrated throughout the year, how are those performed, or I guess I would say more so maybe within your house of worship, done throughout the year? And can people from other religious traditions come to any of those events?
Within the community, we have many holidays, many days to celebrate, because we had 10 gurus, 9 other successors of the first guru. But the major celebrations we celebrate is the birth of our first guru, Guru Nanak, which coming on November 17th this year. Then second, we celebrate in April, which is the birth of our, which called Khalsa, when physical guru left this world and gave guruship to the scriptures. So that is a major event in our community. The third is when scriptures were given guruship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These are 3 events, major events.
And how does your community go and work maybe those who are less fortunate? I know many faith traditions believe, as you know, serving others. So how do you go, or how does your community select or choose which type of those community service projects to participate?
One very prominent tradition in our community is that after every service, regardless of where we do it, the meal is served for everyone.
Okay.
It's a free meal. Anyone can come from any community. There is no restriction in our place of worship. Secondly, we hold a major homeless feeding once a year for at least 1,300 people in Washington, D.C. And then we used to have once a month feeding for, especially in those days, it was very difficult to even approach those who were AIDS kind of quote-unquote patients. We used to provide food for them. Now we visit senior citizen homes just to connect with them, not to preach our faith, just to make them feel that we are part of you and you are part of us.
Right.
And we do that once a month.
Oh, good. And how does your community connect with the young members?
We have our language school in our Gurdwaras, place of worship. And then every evening, just like today, I have a class to teach. And especially because of our parents, our children face issues in schools because people do not know why do we keep hair, turban, and especially it has become difficult after 9/11.
Right.
And people see images on the TV and they feel that we are, maybe part of them or belong to them. But this has nothing to do with in any ways.
Okay.
So to deal those issues, and we have classes and we prepare them and especially get them involved into sports that let people know who you are.
Okay. Now this ties back in with the interfaith movement. Now I know you're serving on the board as IFC. How does your faith community as a whole participate in various interfaith activities? And feel free to share examples with IFC too.
I feel we are fortunate. This area, Washington D.C. metro area, is very fortunate to have such a platform like Interfaith Conference. And truly, personally, I admit that I did not know anything about other faiths. And if I knew it, they were all misconceptions.
Okay.
That Interfaith has provided me the first-hand information about other faiths from other faith leaders who exercise those faiths. And it is amazing that it has given me also opportunity to share who we are and what we believe in. And we encourage our community, especially Sikh community, to participate in interfaith meetings, not just to tell about yourself who you are, but learn about other faiths also, that we can have a one loving community around us.
Okay. And with your role with the concert, can you share with us what your role will be? Will you be performing, singing on the 19th?
Yes, I will be part of our Sikh group, which we call Kirtan Jatha, and the music is very much inseparable part of our tradition. In our even regular service, started with the music, ends with music. So our holy scriptures are written in that tone of music, in Indian classical music. And I will be leading our group, a group of 35 people, men, women, and young children.
Oh, nice. Now back to you, Mike. Regarding opportunities to support the concert, can you share with us how our viewers can be a part of this in addition to coming out to the event?
Sure. Well, certainly in the most basic sense, we encourage people to attend the concert, especially if you've never had the chance to do that before. There are also some sponsorship opportunities because this is Reverend Lobenstein's 35th and final concert with us. There are opportunities to express gratitude to him. If anyone knows him personally, we'd love to, include your well wishes in the program book. Businesses are certainly welcome to advertise in the tribute book, and there are, certain levels of sponsorship available for that in terms of ad placement and things like that. So, from now until maybe the first week of November, if anybody is seeing, this program in that time frame, we'd be very happy to talk to you about sponsorship opportunities. And you can reach IFC at 202-234-6300.
Okay. And now, if faith communities who are hearing about your organization for the first time and want to get involved or even help out with the event, do they have to go through like a certain registration process, or do they just call the number? And
well, volunteers are most welcome to help with the night of the concert. We need probably about 35 ushers and some other folks to help with that dessert reception that we talked about at the end, and some other folks to help serve the choir's supper before the event also. So I would be very happy to talk to you about any opportunities like that, again at that IFC number of 202-234-6300.
okay. And one final thing I'd like to ask my guest. Fun thing that our audience would like to know about you. If there's something fun or unique about you, how would you?
About
can you share
me personally?
Personally, professionally? Always ask.
Well, I grew up in Boston as a Roman Catholic, and so obviously, that was a very comfortable environment in which to grow up for somebody, from my tradition, because there were a lot of people very similar to me around me. But I always kind of realized that there was sort of a wider world to discover. And so fortunately I had the opportunity to come here to Washington, D.C., a more cosmopolitan city, to go to college. And I've, settled into my career here in the last, 20, 25 years ever since then too. And so definitely have broadened my horizons in many ways by being exposed to people of different religious traditions and ethnic backgrounds, and certainly races as well.
Okay.
Every time we go out, it's a fun thing. People, especially looking at our parents, some people question, some people laugh, and I truly enjoy. I tell my son sometimes, you have to accept yourself in order to make a point that others should accept you. If you you are not willing to accept who you are, then forget about others. You must not forget who you are. And a little story, I was coming from Pennsylvania one day, and I was filling gas in my car, and there was a lady, she said, "Why do you have this?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "You have it and you don't know?" I said, "One thing I know is that I didn't buy it from Walmart."
All right.
Okay. As a person of faith, it's immaterial whether I know it or not. Who gave me must know it. And as a person of faith, I'm trying to find why he gave me this. And she started laughing and left. And I kept on laughing after her question. It is interesting. It's an everyday news story, every day. Okay. New way to live life.
Live life. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I look forward to going to the concert, and I know our audience would definitely like to learn more about the concert and attend as well. So we're very appreciative that you came out today to share your information and your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Jackie, let me personally invite you if you want to have any time, any of your staff members, free vegetarian meal.
Ooh.
Come Friday evening.
Okay.
And Sunday whole day in our Gurdwara. and no one will ask you where you have come from, for what purpose. You can enjoy this.
Oh, thank
That meal is called langar, and the hospitality behind it is just amazing, really. The Sikh community
Thank you, guys.
served hundreds of thousands of people at the Parliament of the World's Religions in
Oh.
Barcelona and
Whoa.
other gatherings, completely free of charge. So really quite amazing.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And I will take you up on that offer. That's definitely. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much. I
much.
appreciate it.
God bless you.
Thank you. And we will be right back.
Get a job.
Look, it's a giraffe.
I don't see it.
The less art kids get, the more it shows. Are yours getting enough? Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
Pants, pants, pants. I am folding the pants. Do they go on my head?
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
It's coming right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
Welcome back to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. Our next guest today is Reverend Ogun Holder, Associate Minister at Unity of Gaithersburg. Welcome, Reverend Holder, to the show. We
Thank you
appreciate
for-
having you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we could be here finally. It took us forever to get a date.
Long time, yes, I know, but I'm glad to have you here. Now, can you share with our audience some background information about yourself and Unity of Gaithersburg?
Well, me personally, I was born in Barbados, which after a few minutes of speaking, you'll just hear the accent still coming out. And I moved to the United States in 1994 to pursue a degree in music therapy. I attended Shenandoah University in Winchester, Virginia, and it was quite the culture shock, let me just tell you. Winters for the first time, being totally immersed in American culture. But it was a wonderful experience, and I practiced music therapy professionally for a few years. And in some of, towards the end of college, I happened to meet my wife. And when we started dating, she introduced me to Unity. And I like to tell people, you know, that's how I got into Unity. I was dating a girl, and you know, we all do things when we're dating. So I got into Unity, and it was a very fascinating experience, having grown up in Barbados in a very traditional Christian, almost evangelical experience, and during college having a somewhat crisis of faith. To find a spiritual experience that really resonated for me was quite refreshing. So I attended Unity and took on the teaching so much that after a few years, I really felt this inner compulsion, if you will, to become an ordained minister. And as they say, the rest is history being written. Unity of Gaithersburg is, well, let me speak about Unity in general first. Sure. Unity is a worldwide spiritual movement. In general, it is a very inclusive organization. We are seeking to provide ways for individuals to express their own inner divinity. There are Unity centers throughout the world. I think last count over 700 in various countries around the world. Unity of Gaithersburg itself is a community that has existed for, I think, almost 30 years. My wife is the senior minister. She's also Unity minister. I'm the associate, and we have been there for almost 2 years now. Unity is really based on the teachings of Jesus, and we were part of what we would call a New Thought Christian expression of these teachings of Jesus. But we also acknowledge that all paths lead to God. All spiritual expressions are valid and accepted. We even borrow from them in our services. and we do our best to be welcoming and open to all.
That's good. That's good. So what would someone would expect on a typical day coming to service? When you walk into the doors of your spiritual community, what will they expect? What will happen?
Well, I'd like to borrow a phrase from a seminary professor of mine. He said, unity is culturally Christian and spiritually unlimited. So the first part, culturally Christian, it looks a lot like, a regular church, and I use that term regular very loosely. If one comes to Unity Community Center Church on Sunday mornings, they'll be singing, there'll be a minister speaking, preaching. We're going to pass the basket, pick up an offering. We're going to welcome visitors. We're going to have fellowship and break some bread, afterwards. It's a very traditional church experience. What may not be the usual church experience is that there will be a time of guided meditation, and there will actually be a time of sitting in the silence during that meditation. So there's a little bit of East meets West hybrid of spiritual expression.
And any key community service projects that your community does?
Yeah, we're involved in quite a few. An example is every year we have a wonderful Christmas or holiday concert, and this year it's December 15th, and all the money that's raised through that goes to a local food bank in Montgomery County. We are raising awareness to the Montgomery Humane Society, and we collect items for that as well. And we also donate financially to lots of local organizations. My wife and I ourselves, we get involved on the ministerial level with some interfaith expressions and interfaith organizations. A good example of that, recently we started getting involved with the People of Faith for Equality in Virginia, I think, and they are an organization raising awareness and trying to make changes around the same-sex marriage issue in Virginia and basically bring marriage equality to all. And our community has had a long history of being a safe and accepting place for other religious expressions. We've shared our space and rented our space to Sikh communities, for example, as they were looking for their own place to purchase. Yeah.
Wow. Very active. That's good.
A little bit, yeah.
And how are young people, how are they involved?
Young people. Now, when you say young adults, young children.
Young, I'm going to say young, from the kids, like children, elementary, even maybe up to young adults who are on the fence, spiritual but not religious, curious, or just, hey, I'm just looking for a spot to hang out.
Well, we do have a very active youth program from nursery age all the way up to the end of high school. Unity has a very long-standing what we call Youth of Unity program for high schoolers, where they are taught the unity principles and in very engaging ways. And Unity as a whole also caters to young adults. There's a program called Next Generation of Unity, which is specifically tailored towards 18 to almost 35-ish age adults. So our focus is to create and facilitate expressions for all ages. We are very, I like to say, youth and family oriented, and youth being children, young adults, family being all ages.
Oh, got a lot going on, but that's good.
That is good. It is good. We are a busy place. At Unity of Gaithersburg, there is something going on almost every day of the week. And I will share also that in the Washington, D.C. area, there are about a dozen or so Unity communities, like the one you attend, Unity in Fairfax, and they're in Alexandria, there's downtown DC, Bowie, we're all over.
Okay. And being a young minister, do you feel like you bring something different to the table as regards to maybe ministers how they're traditionally seen, and do you see that maybe some people gravitate to you more because you may come as being young, vibrant, expressive, more open, versus maybe some ministers who are traditional, maybe keep things, don't rock the boat, don't like change. So as you being a younger minister, what has that been like? And how, even like with callings, how did you handle your calling? and that interaction with maybe people who are not used to seeing you, you know, a young minister?
Well, first, thank you for calling me young and vibrant. Some days I don't feel that way, and as I like to say sometimes, yes, I've been I think shattering expectations in many ways. Just the other day, I was at the dentist's office, and when she saw I was a minister, or she heard I was a minister, she said, "You're the minister that was coming in? I expected someone a lot older and a lot fatter," and I just thought that was hilarious. But it is, I think, unique still to see ministers who are young, because often people come to this conviction of faith, I think, a little later in life. I would say that when I was clear about this call to ministry, my honest reaction at first was, Lord, let this cup pass from me. No, anything but this. Simply because I know that when one embarks on this journey of ministry, if you will, and being a servant to a higher purpose, there's no downtime. It becomes an all-consuming event, an occupation, both in your work time and in your personal time as well. But one of the things that I am very adamant about is that spirituality is not something we do at another point of the day. It's who we are, it's who we become. And there's no right way to be spiritual. There's no wrong way. There's no, it must be this way. I think however we are spiritual is however, in unity, as we like to say, that Christ's spirit within us, or inner divine essence, is seeking to express out through us. So for me, I can enjoy being spiritual, I can enjoy being a facilitator of transformation and consciousness, and at the same time, I can enjoy watching Walking Dead, and I can enjoy, many TV shows, and find a spiritual thread in every single thing that I do. Just the other day, I gave a talk that featured a story from Walking Dead, and many people say what they like about me is that I don't try to escape real life. I don't try to make things in everyday experience, good or bad. This is life, and who we are in life is we are spiritual beings having this experience of life. It's not separate from, and it doesn't mean that we should label things as good or as bad. Things are what they are. How are we going to interpret them and experience them and draw inspiration from them and use them to raise our level of consciousness to a higher place?
Okay. And with all your expression, you now have this book.
I now have this book.
Rants
Yes.
to Revelations, unabashedly honest reflections on life, spirituality, and the meaning of God. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I think I'd always fancied myself a writer. And when I was in seminary, it was another time of a crisis of faith. I think I've had maybe 3 crises of faith, and I'm not even 40 yet, which is a lot, very intense. But during seminary, and the purpose of seminary really is to have us really get clear about how we see ourselves in relation to God. And during this seminary experience, I got clear about a lot of things. And there were, there's that phrase, the dark night of the soul. I had like a dark fortnight. It was a long time. And during that time, part of the way I expressed what I was going through was through writing, through blogging. And the blog at the time was called Rants to Revelations. And the idea behind the title is that in everyday moments of life, there are things that will make us angry. There are things that will make us upset. Sometimes we go to dark places, and out of those dark places is where we draw the light, is how we get to the next expression of who we are, is where we find the divine inspiration, not just in the great stuff that happens. And if you read the Bible, there are hundreds of stories. That is the journey of the individuals in the Bible. The light comes out of the darkness. So this was the title for me as I was going through ministerial school. Through my dark nights and my dark experiences and my crisis of faith was how I came to find myself, define myself, discover the God of myself. And as I was writing the blogs, it so happened that the CEO of Unity came across one of my stories and said, and passed it on to the editor of Unity Books, which is our own in-house publishing. And she said, "Do you have more of these? We think this would make a great book." And that's how it all rolled out.
That's so, like, get yourself out there and then just having that right person connect. And
Yes. And truly this is what the Unity Principles are about. The Unity Principles are about the practical application of spiritual teachings into our lives, so that our lives are no longer a struggle, that we can, and when I say no longer struggle, I'm not saying that things don't happen, but I'm saying that then when they do, we are spiritually and emotionally equipped to handle them and move through them. And as a result, our life experience becomes one of flow, of smoothness, not one of bumpy resistance.
Right. Good points. Good points. Something different to kind of just look at it. Take spirituality.
Yeah, it's not about reacting to something. It's about being a proactive participant in our own experience. We like to say that we are co-creating our life experience with God. We're not just, listening for something out there to tell us what to do. We're active co-creators, and when we practice these spiritual principles, then life flows a lot smoother. One of our basic principles, for example, is that we create the experience we want to have in life through the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts create our experience, and our thoughts really shift how we experience what's happening around us. And as a result, life doesn't happen to us. We live life. We happen to life. We experience life. We create the life we want to have.
Oh, good perspectives. Now, your book cover is interesting. You have a kind of laid-back, chill look there on the book. Can you describe the inspiration behind the look and the style of your book?
I think
cover?
this is who I am, a little bit laid back and chill,
Okay.
coming from Barbados.
Oh, okay.
But the team at Unity Books, they were the ones who created the cover and the design, and it's very interesting. They were wanted to be clear and purposeful about having me on the cover. I was a little resistant about having my face plastered on the book. But they thought it would be the best way to go, so I just followed their advice.
Okay.
And that's how we ended up with that. So it was a great design team. I'm very happy with the book. One of the interesting pieces about the book is at the beginning of every chapter, there's a cartoon illustration dealing with the content of the chapter. I'm not an artist, at least not a visual one. The cartoons are by a gentleman called David Hayward. And his online nickname is the Naked Pastor, and he's one who, as you can tell by that name, he really pushes the boundaries of how we understand church and God and spirituality. So he does in artwork what I think I like to do in writing. So he agreed to do some drawings for the book, and it's been fascinating because I've had a lot of parents tell me that they bought the book for themselves, and their teenagers, for example, saw the book. They're flipping through the book, and they would see an illustration or a cartoon, and they would go, "Oh, well, where's the next one?" So they'd flip through the book to read all the cartoons, and then start reading the content, and it would generate discussion between the teenagers and their parents. Okay. So, if anyone's ever looking for a great segue to talk to their kids about spirituality, this might be one.
The go-to. Gotcha.
I wouldn't call it the go-to. I'm just saying this might be an option.
An option, okay. Now, with the book itself, is there a particular passage or chapter or sentence that really resonates with you, that stands out, that you would like to share with us?
Well, how much time do we have?
You're still good.
As I was thinking about that, my last few years have really been interested in terms of my family back in Barbados coming to terms with me being a unity minister. And when I say come to terms with, I've been very vocal about my support for the LGBT community, as a very vocal about my support for marriage equality. And this is a topic that's not really dealt with well where I come from in the Caribbean. There's still much discrimination.
I understand, though.
And even here in the United States as well. So it's been creating quite a stir back home. So there's a chapter I have in the book that speaks specifically about that speaks about the use of the Bible to support the arguments against marriage equality. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read a little bit about what I've written about that. Discrimination of all kinds is continually perpetrated and defended by those who simply refuse to evolve in their thinking about what is written in the Bible and other holy scriptures. I marvel at black ministers, for example, who use isolated Bible passages to rationalize their opposition to homosexuality and legalizing gay marriage. Did they conveniently forget the same Bible was once used to justify the horrors of slavery? Women who speak out against homosexuality as an ungodly act also seem to have overlooked the fact that women were viewed in the Bible as property on par with livestock and land. I am baffled that many of these same women willingly belong to faith movements that treat them as less than equals under the disempowering theology of complementarianism. The archaic view would say that although essentially equal, men and women have different but complementary roles. Sounds good on paper, right? Yet somehow none of the leadership and decision-making roles are ever assigned to women. They get to collaborate with and support their husbands, and they're denied other rights, such as being ordained as ministers in some movements. Equal but complementary doesn't sound too far from separate but equal. Just saying. I digress, and perhaps too harshly. How anyone chooses to express their understanding of God is their human and constitutional right. Speaking of the Constitution, what I don't think is right is the increasingly common practice of states amending their Constitution to enforce the belief of inequality. Wasn't this country founded on the idea of freedom of expression, of religious expression? I'm not from this country, but that's how I understand it. So to create laws that would support the disenfranchisement of any group of people based on religious interpretation seems, well, downright un-American. Yes, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here. I have to ask myself, what am I as a choir member doing about this? I could say, and I've said in the past, that since this isn't a problem in unity, this isn't a problem. But that would be saying there isn't a hunger or homelessness issue because I live in a house with a stocked refrigerator. Is it enough to say that I belong to a movement that accepts all, so I have done my part? Hardly. I get to be in action with my vote when the opportunity arises, with my money by supporting organizations that do support same-sex marriage, and with my time and energy by marching in protest alongside my friends and family members who do not have the same legal rights afforded to me. Do I also have a greater responsibility as a minister? Absolutely. That responsibility is to be a loud voice for the other side of the God story that seems to be often and conveniently forgotten. That side is the simply elegant prose of the one upon whose teachings Christianity is founded, Jesus. When asked, what is the greatest commandment? His reply was to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. Depending on where you read this passage, the next question is, so who is my neighbor? It was a great question that led to one of the most heart-opening call to action parables of the New Testament, the Good Samaritan. In this tale for the ages, Jesus basically called out his fellow Jews by making the hero of the story a Samaritan. And although ancestrally related, the Jews looked down on Samaritans. So you could imagine their ire when, in Jesus' story, the victim of a vicious attack and robbery was helped not by a Jewish priest or Levite, the upper crust of the priests, but by a Samaritan. The crowd didn't see this one coming. Jesus could spin a good yarn. And I think the crowd missed a great opportunity to ask an even more important question. How do I love myself? Because isn't that at the heart of the issue? Before I can love my neighbor, I have to love myself. All love begins with self-love. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true. All loathing begins with self-loathing. So if there's nothing else we are here to do, it is to love ourselves with full abandon, as though there was no chance of disappointment, our hearts wide open and stream in rays of compassion to shed light on a shadowy world. Only then will love in God and love in our neighbor be one and the same.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, did you have any challenges writing the book, writer's block? Did you feel like maybe I shouldn't put that in there, or I have to put this in there, but will people respond differently if I write certain things in certain ways? Any type of challenges?
All of the above. I don't think there's any writer who would say that they don't have challenges along the way. It's part of the writing process. I'll speak for myself, but as I continued to write the book, I think I was about halfway through on my own before I inked an agreement with the publisher, and then there were deadlines. And there's nothing like bringing up writer's block for me than to give me a deadline. So here I was, yes, with writer's block sometimes, yes, with asking for deadline extensions, but also knowing that when I wrote this book that yes, there would be members of my family back home who would not necessarily be my greatest cheerleaders, let's just put it that way. But I felt that yes, this was truly mine to do, to really express how my own spiritual journey, and I talk about that in the book a lot, my own spiritual journey and where I've come to. And the number one feedback that I've gotten about those who've read the book is thank you for sharing this experience, because we felt the same way and we just couldn't find words to articulate the way we felt. The book has been well received by those in Unity, those outside of Unity, those who are consider themselves religious or spiritual or non-religious. I've got a few friends who are atheists and they love this book, and they recommend it to other folks simply to say, here's another idea of what religion and God and spirituality can look like, and it's kind of cool too.
It's interesting. Now, with you and writing the book, anything you learned personally? You got a lot of good feedback, but what did you learn personally? Any transition for you? Because they say when you write things down, it kind of sticks with you and transforms with you and with a way, with ideas. Any of that kind of experience also happened for you after writing the book?
As I was putting my thoughts and beliefs down on paper, it forced me to take a deeper look at them. And in some cases, some of them transformed, if you will, after the book had been published. And I read it a few months later. There were those moments of, I can't believe I wrote that. I don't know that I believe that anymore. So I like to tell folks, the book is really a snapshot of where I am at the time the book was written. I think I stand by everything in here, and I'll also say that a lot of my beliefs have deepened. I've gone deeper since I've written the book. I didn't write it and say, okay, this is all I believe, this is it in a nutshell, I'm done my own personal and spiritual growth and process. No, I've continued growing, I've continued deepening within myself and my understanding of God, and this is volume 1.
Okay.
Volume 2 is in the works, at least up here.
Okay, good.
And I'm working on another book as well.
Oh, good. In addition to another book, you also have a radio show. Tell us
Yes.
how that came to be.
So it's an online radio show. Unity has its own online radio network. The website is unity.fm, and there are dozens of spiritual programming episodes from all different walks of the New Thought circle as well. So there's shows about the Bible, there's shows about vegetarianism, there's shows about humor, whatever you can think of, there's shows on there. And I used to do a program with my wife called about spiritual parenting, and we brought that to a close. I also used to do a show called Unity Happy Hour. It was me and 2 other of my classmates when we were in seminary. And that program was truly about our own journey, what we were discovering as ministers to be. and that program was a lot of fun. So when we all left seminary and went our respective ways, and that program came to a close, folks asked me if I wanted to do something else, and I love doing it. I mean, it is the hour I look forward to most in the week. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Okay. Unity FM. So it is a live program. It is broadcast live, but of course, the episodes are archived. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes, whatever you want to do. And so the show is also titled Rants to Revelations. And what we do is I invite guests from all different walks of life who I believe are transforming the world through living the things they're passionate about. So the tagline in the show is from mayhem to miracle, from disaster to divine. And what we're doing is, so I'll give you an example. There was a guy who started a company called Inspiration Campaign, and his focus is to use mass media to share positive messages. So they're out of San Francisco, they're a startup, and they have billboards above the city that would say things like "You are loved," and they crowdsource these ideas. So people go to the website, they share what they should be on the billboard, they vote for what the next billboard should be. So that's a great example, Inspiration Campaign. I recently had a woman, Brett Larkin. She's the CEO of an organization called Goal Sponsors. And what they've done is they connect coaches, spiritual mentors, anyone in that helping profession with clients who need help. So for example, if I needed a writing coach because I'm in writer's block or I'm just not getting the stuff churned out fast enough, I could go to their website, I could search for that, and there are coaches I could work with. But the cool piece about it is I work with a coach through an app on the phone. So, I can check in with the app, they help me out. So these are the kind of guests that I have on my show, and we do that every week.
Wow. So it's like you're building an enterprise in a way with the Rants to Revelations brand.
An enterprise.
Or I
like
spiritual or becoming a spiritual entrepreneur, and especially, like I said again, a younger face versus maybe what traditionally you see on television or on the radio right now. So it's fascinating just to see like that kind of energy and drive, like you said, because most people would say, I don't want to.
Right.
This calling from God or whoever the higher power is. You're not sure if you're ready because you always see people who are kind of 50 plus, taking on that path.
Well, part of it also was, I write about this in the book as well. I lived through a Jonah and the whale experience in trying my best to run away from this experience, from this calling, if you will. And soon realized that there was no getting away from it. But that didn't mean that it needed to look a certain way, and that was part of why I initially tried to reject it. I don't want to be a minister because ministers do X and look like X, and that is so not who I am. But I soon realized that I could define this however I wanted to. And if there was any calling, it was to inspire others to live out that expression of the divine within them as they saw fit, as they were being led to, whether it was an internal nudge or otherwise. So for me, that looked like writing. For me, that looks like speaking on Sunday mornings. And it ironically didn't look at first like being in one church all the time. The vast majority of speaking that I do, I travel around the country and I speak at other churches. I love doing that. I love going to new communities, meeting new people, being the guest minister, saying things to stir up trouble and then running away. No, I'm just kidding. But I love that experience. I love writing. I love being online. Part of one of my online ministries, if you will, is called Unity for All. It's a nonprofit that is dedicated to spiritual transformation. So I lead guided meditations live online. I blog on that site as well. I have some other programs on there. So for me, it's ministry. I think the church model of the four walls and a roof, that physical church model, anyone who's honest with themselves knows that model is dying. It's struggling. Churches are closing their doors every day. Mega churches may be surviving, but the vast majority of smaller churches are really struggling, and we hear about the spiritual, not religious component of our population that is growing faster and faster, and people are leaving traditional church because they are, I think, frustrated and disillusioned with being told it needs to look a certain way. So I think, as part of someone who was frustrated with that as well, I believe, true calling was to express ministry, express spirituality, express relationship with God, express discovering God within us in different ways. And I don't believe I'm doing anything uniquely original at all. I just believe that I'm harnessing a lot of different avenues at the same time, like social media. Yes, writing a traditional book, being here on TV, and doing a podcast. So these are all ways we can be in ministry.
Now, normally I would ask guests, like, what fun thing that they do outside of their work, but you seem like you have so much going on. So just briefly, what do you do to relax? Because you have a lot going on.
Yes, what do we do to relax? You know, I think I'm a lot like a lot of ministers in that way, in that we always have to struggle to relax because there's always so much going on. But I'm also a musician, so one of the things I like to do is play music. I was recently in a band, and I had to stop because of schedule conflicts, but there was that. I mentioned earlier, I love to watch a lot of TV and movies. My family and I were just at the movies last night, so there's that. Love to travel. We're going to be heading down to Barbados to see my family in a little while, and then we're planning some other trips. So those are all my fun things, but and I love being on Twitter.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Holder, for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you here and your energy and just giving us a different perspective on how, I guess, young, aspiring, in your case, in process ministers are going to reach out to the community to express their spirituality and what they're contributing to the world. So I do appreciate that and have you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching us today on Interfaith Connections. For more information, go to www.interfaithconnections.squarespace.com. And thank you for watching. Bye-bye.